Howdy everyone, this is Trisha and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made this Caldo De Rez. It is a nice beef soup. This is wonderful, especially now for the fall season coming up. It is hearty and delicious, so I'll show you what the ingredients are going to be. Alright, so these are the ingredients I'm going to be using. Here I have 2 pieces of beef shank. I have some oxtails. Altogether I have about 4 pounds of beef. You could also use some ribs. I have a whole cabbage here that I've quartered, some cilantro. I do have a whole onion I'm going to be using, but this is half an onion cut in half. And then I've got 2 little golden potatoes. You could use russet potatoes, but I suggest peeling the russet potatoes. These are fine. Here I have some chayote squash. This is just one that I peeled and cut. I have a large tatuma squash that I've gone ahead and sliced up. 1 large jalapeno that is optional. I've got a couple of limes here. Here's the other half of onion that I plan on chopping up. These are some corn and I've just cut them in half. So I have 6 pieces. Here I have about 5 carrots and I've cut them in, this particular size of pieces. Some are a little bit smaller. Then I've got about 4 celery sticks that I've cut up like this, just chopped up simply like that. Alright, and I believe I mentioned the cilantro, so let's get to cooking. Alright, so here I have a nice large pot and I have filled it up with 18 cups of water. That's basically all I need for the amount that I'm going to make. I've already added some salt, but I'll sprinkle some in there just so that you can see that. And I'm letting the water get nice and hot, and we're going to go ahead and add our meat in there. In goes our beef shanks, the oxtails. Alright, so we're going to let this cook for about 30 minutes and then we're going to be seeing a kind of a foamy scum forming on top. We're going to be cleaning that off, but we'll get to that as soon as we see that forming. So you're going to keep an eye on your pot for now. Alright, so here we can see these little scummy bubbles that form on the top. We're going to go ahead and remove that. So I'm putting it over here in another little bowl. So I'm just going to try and clean this as best as I can. And I'll check it often so that I can go ahead and keep removing this. We want to have a nice clean broth. Alright, so I've removed as much as I can. There's still some of that on the sides here, but it's pretty clear now. If you're wondering what forms that is basically just fat and a little bit of the blood in the meat that comes out, and it forms this little brown bit. So what I did is before I put them in the water here, I went ahead and I rinsed them off as best as I could. Alright, so in this little bowl here I have 1 tablespoon of beef bouillon, 1 tablespoon of tomato bouillon. I have half a tablespoon of cumin powder, about the same or a little bit less of the black pepper, and then I've got about 5, these are small garlic cloves. Add as much garlic as you want. If you don't have fresh garlic, you can go ahead and use the powdered garlic. Now I'm not going to add any salt to this because the bouillons have plenty of salt and I did add salt to the water to begin with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till I can taste the broth and then I can season it with salt if needed. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into my pot for now. And again, we can adjust these later when we taste them as well. Okay, we're going to mix them in. That smells so good. That cumin smells really good. By the way, if you feel like you have to cut off some of that fat off your oxtail bones or any other pieces of meat that you use, you want to feel like cutting some of that off, you can go ahead and do so. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my carrots. By the way, this has been cooking almost an hour now. It was at the 30-minute mark when I was cleaning the little scummy bits, and I've gone ahead and I've cleaned up a little bit more. So now I'm adding also the celery, and this is at a medium heat, by the way. I'm adding in the chayote squash. I'm going to be saving the zucchini squash for later because that one doesn't take as long to cook. I'm also going to save my potatoes, but I'm going to go ahead and add my corn. I'm going to push all this down, and I'm also going to add the onion, and then we're going to let this cook for another 30 minutes and we'll be back to check it. And I forgot one ingredient. I wanted to add some roma tomatoes. I have these small little roma tomatoes and they are 4 here. I've already cut up 3 of them. So I'm just going to cut it in half and then in half again so I get these little chunks. So So I'm going to go ahead and toss in these tomatoes. Now I've already looked at the meat, and the meat is cooked, and I've gone ahead and I've tasted the broth. It is delicious. I don't think I'm going to add any more seasonings, but I'm going to wait a little bit more, and I'm going to cover it back up. And I did go ahead and lower the heat to a, sorry about that, to a low to medium heat. Now I have been putting a lid on it, and that's another thing that I had not mentioned, but I'm not covering it completely. I'm just leaving it a little bit like that because I do want some of that steam to escape. If you have a very good lid or a good pot where the lid seals properly, then you won't have any spillover. But covering it completely with something light like this, for example, can cause some spillover, which did happen in the beginning. So just keep an eye out for that. Make sure your lid is on either very well placed, but wait till you have it at a low to medium heat. All right, so now let's go ahead and add these potatoes, our jalapeno, right there, and the squash up at the top. All right, so let's just leave it alone for a little bit longer. All right, so for the last 30 minutes, I'm also going to be adding some Mexican oregano, just a pinch. I'm going to be adding a little bunch of cilantro, just like that. And then I'm using, this is half a cabbage actually, and I've cut it in half and then in half again. So I'm just taking these big pieces, putting them on top. They're basically going to steam in the pot, and then we can push them down. Now you could cut this up into smaller bits if you prefer, maybe even shred it up, but if you're going to shred it up, they won't take that long to steam, so you know, just add them maybe at the last 15 minutes. All right, so we're going to let this cook for another half an hour, and that will be a total of 2 hours. All right, so here we go. That is what our caldo is looking like. Here's the cabbage all nice and steamed on the top. Let's pull out some of the ingredients at the bottom, and there we go. Look at that. And here is a bone from the shank meat here. It's super hot. Let me get a fork. Okay, so let's see this little meat here. That came off very easily. Yummy, yummy. So let's serve this up. All right, so I have served up a beautiful bowl of the Caldo De Rez, and I've made some rice, and I have a recipe for this rice, so I will link up the video in the description box below. And now I'm going to top it up with some chopped onions. And by the way, I'm pretty sure I grabbed parsley instead of cilantro. So we're just going to add a little bit on top, and we'll pretend that it is cilantro. Doesn't hurt. It tastes just as nice with that. And then of course we want to squeeze in some lime. And there we go. Ready to give it a nice taste test. All right, so let me show you how I like to eat it. I like to get some corn tortillas and roll them up, and they can be dipped into the beef soup here on the side. My dog is even barking because she can smell this. And now we take some of the rice and we can put it into our little caldito right here. Let it soak up that broth. Grab a piece of meat, carrot, whatever you want. I got some of the tatuma squash here, the Mexican squash. I got some of the chayote. Look at that, delicious. Absolutely delicious. It is so hearty. I have to give another little taste. I like to dip my tortilla in there, like I said, just like that. I'm going to give myself a big old thumbs up, and I hope that you too will give me a big old thumbs up. I hope that you enjoyed my recipe for today of this delicious caldo de res. And please leave a kind comment down below and let me know what you think of my recipe. Have you made your own caldo? What do you do? Do you make it a little different? And what meat parts do you like to use for your caldo? I want to know if you also like to use rice, or do you use something else to add on to this? All right, everyone, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that red button down below and subscribe to my videos, and hit the little notification bell so that you get notified as soon as I upload some videos. I'm going to keep enjoying my soup, and I hope you will too. Enjoy!